This is John Steen. I want to call to order the SAENERGY Acquisition Public Facility Corporation meeting held on December 14, 2020. And we'll begin the meeting by a roll call. Ms. Shellman.
Chair Steen.
Here.
Dr. Mackey.
Here.
Mr. Kelly.
Here.
Gonzalez. Ms. Gold-Williams.
Here. Trustee Gonzalez is here. Sorry.
Mr. Gold, Gary Gold.
Here.
Mayor Nuremberg is not joining us. So we do have a quorum, sir.
All right, let's move to agenda item 2, which is public comment. This provides an opportunity for members of the public to share thoughts on any of this meeting's posted agenda items. For this meeting, we do not have any registered speakers. And we always like to remind members of the public you don't have to attend a board meeting to communicate with us. There are several different communication channels. You could email at feedback@cpsenergy.com. You could phone at 210-353-2222, or you can mail P.O. Box 1771, San Antonio 78296. Agenda item 3 is approval of the consent items, and on the list of consent items is one thing: the minutes of the meeting held on August 31st, 2020. Have you all had an opportunity to review the minutes?
I have, and I recommend approval.
So the motion by Mr. Kelly, is there a second?
I motion to second, Dr. Mackey.
Dr. Mackey seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Actually, go ahead, Ms. Shellman, and call the roll on the approval of the minutes.
Okay. Dr. Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Gold-Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Good. Let's move to agenda item 4, which is amendment to bylaws, and this is a voting item. Ms. Shellman?
Yes, sir. This is, you will look in your packet on page 5. There is a resolution that we are asking that the board adopt, and it does one thing, and just a couple of places in the bylaws. We needed to reflect the new McCullough address for the corporation's headquarters. And in doing that, we have reflected it in a way that if for some reason the address would change, we would not have to amend them again. But that's the only amendment to the bylaws, and you have a redlined copy of those changes on pages 8, starting at page 8 in your book. So if you are in favor of doing that, we need a motion to approve the resolution that is on page 5 in your packet.
I move that we approve the amendment to the bylaws.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kelly. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Shellman, call the roll.
Yes, sir. Dr. Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Alice?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Gold?
Yes.
Chair Steen?
Yes. Item 5 is financial authorization and approvals policy for banking and investing, and this is a voting item, and Mr. Gold is the presenter.
Yes, sir, Mr. Steen. This is a request that we make annually of the members of the PSC board, requesting approval of the financial authorization and approvals policy. This is a policy that's very similar to the policies that the board approved earlier today, relative to CPS Energy. This is the authorization, the financial policy for the PSC. There have been no changes to this policy from what was previously approved by the PSC board last year. And so today we are respectfully requesting approval of this policy for the year effective January 31st, 2021.
And maybe I'm confused. Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
So, is this the board? And I'm sorry, I'm still learning the business model of CPS. Is this separate board the one that oversees, for example, the team, the committee that's associated with that whole situation on military, the city base?
No, this particular entity has the prepaid natural gas transaction, and so this policy is related to the investments and the banking associated with that particular transaction. The Public Facility Corporation only has that one transaction, the prepaid natural gas transaction.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gold, is there anything wouldn't you say that this authorization that you're asking, an approvals policy that you're asking approval for, there's not anything in there that you would point out to where you would say this is something you need to focus on? This is pretty routine, right?
Yes, sir. I mean, we have the same controls built into this policy that we would for any of our other banking and investment policies. We're requiring 2 officers to designate any type of transactions, the same collateral requirements. So we have the same level of controls in this policy that we have in our other policies.
When we did the internals control review or audit, was anything about what we're voting on changed by that?
No, sir. Okay. No, sir.
John, this is Ed Kelly. I lost my phone for a few minutes there and went dead, so I had to change over. But I don't think I missed anything. But I do have a couple of questions. I agree with the policy, but it reads funny to me, and I'd like to ask a question. On the first page, under collateral, the second line has a defined term, trustee. It says, in the event cash balances exceed levels incurred or insured by the FDIC, the trustee will pledge collateral. Well, who is the trustee? Then it is a defined term as I read this contract, but I can't find it where it is defined. Then secondly, if you go down to the bottom of page 13, it talks about trustee there with a little t. And then if you go over to the last page, standard of care, it puts trustees again, and I think in a totally different context. And then at the bottom of page 14, you've got little trustee again. I don't know who the trustee is because it's not defined, in my opinion, and I'm confused. I think the trustee under the collateral is talking about the trustee for the financial institution that we're dealing with, whereas the trustee under the standard of care, to me, is a different trustee. I'm confused.
Yes, sir. And Shannon Albert is also on this call. I'm going to look to also ask Shannon Albert to see if she can provide some context.
Thank you, Gary. Good afternoon, trustees. Under the collateral, Mr. Kelly, you are correct. That is the banking institution. I think we need to be a little bit more. We'll need to go back in and define that term. We did not define it in this document. While we had defined officers, we did not define trustee as mentioned under the collateral.
Yeah, I wish you would do that. And then is that the same trustee that is mentioned under standard of care, on page 15.
Okay.
This appears to be trustees on our side of the table.
Yes, sir. That would be more along the board trustees.
What could be potentially confusing is that trustees happens to be the first word in that sentence, so it's capitalized.
Yes,
no,
sir.
I think if you look
well,
at
no, I think
trustees,
it's
officers,
lowercase t on trustees, really. It just has to be capitalized because it's the first word.
Chair Steen, I believe under the standard of care, we need to define that when we're using trustees there, it should be defined because we've defined officers as well as the authorized representatives.
yeah, and I think we're dealing with two different defined terms here.
Yes, sir, we are. Really, we could change the trustee referenced in the collateral probably to the custodian.
Yes.
And then define those
something
terms.
like that because I was confused as I read this document.
Yes, sir, we can definitely incorporate those changes.
Can I weigh in a little bit?
Yes, ma'am.
So I understand, and I think Trustee Kelly's point is valid. We need to define the term, but I actually think that means the expectation is the trustee. When we talk about board members, we typically talk about officers. I thought we didn't call us trustees. The board for CPS Energy are trustees. I think this is the financial institution, is it not, Shannon?
So we define the officers, Paula, but not all of the trustees are considered officers. I believe they're referenced as directors in the document, in the other document.
Well, my point is I think we are all directors of the PFC. I think this trustee, to Chair Steen's point, probably means we expect the trustee to do its fiduciary responsibility.
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
To define the term so that there isn't confusion. There are trustees on the board, but there's directors and officers. So we can make that. I totally agree that we should make that change and make sure that it's clear we're not talking about board of trustees from CPS Energy.
Let me ask you this: is this because this is a separate corporation? Can we do things by unanimous consent without a meeting? Like you could with a regular corporation.
I'll defer to you.
I think we cannot, and Xander is explaining to me why not. Sir, I believe that the PFC is subject to the Open Meetings Act, and so it needs to be noticed.
Okay, that's all right. You don't need to explain it much more. Yes or no. So what are we going to do? Because we've got these changes that need to be made, and yet I certainly don't want to. We don't have to have another PFC meeting just for.
My recommendation is that we document in the meetings to clarify and define the terms, and if the board would accept the recommendation, subject to that change, it can be done. Because otherwise, we're going to spend an hour doing administrative change, and the staff can report back the clarifying wording.
Good. Well, Paula, maybe of course you're a member. I mean, you're a director, so maybe you could make that motion. That
yes, sir.
Do you want to state it again? What your thought is that we're going to adopt this policy, but with what?
I propose that we adopt the policy, except for making the clarifying to specifically define the term trustees for clarity and separating the meaning of that from the actual directors and officers on the committee, and instruct the staff to make that change, finalize the documents, and send them to us. So we are recommending that they make the change, get it done, and confirm it back, and that they have the action to take care of it.
All right. But in effect, we'll be adopting this policy with these changes in it that you're suggesting.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that your motion? Do I have a second?
I second it, but again, you're going to send us a copy of the revised document, right?
Yes, sir.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I'll second it then.
Okay. Any further discussion? Ms. Shellman, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Dr. Mackey?
Yes.
Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Ms. Knowles?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mrs. Knoll?
Yes.
Mr. Steen?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Mr. Kelly, very good catch. You're pretty thorough about all this. Wow. But you made a really good point on that. All right, let's item 6 is closeout, review action items from this meeting. Ms. Albert.
Yes, sir, Chair Steen. So we have one action item, and that is to update the policy with clarifying language, defining trustees and directors, and then send a copy of the revised document back out to our directors.
I think that's correct. Anything else from anybody else?
No, sir. That's the only item I captured.
Okay, good. So item 7 is adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move.
By Mr. Kelly. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Paula?
Paula Gold-Williams seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.